Going live. How do I add people? Add people. Links. YouTube page. What? There we go.
All good.
All good. All right, cool. So do you have the content downloaded anywhere?
I have the content ready to go.
All right. So yeah, if I just flick this to you, and that should stay as you. Cool. We currently have no viewers. So do you think we should wait for viewers, or do we just go, or?
That's a good question. Let's waffle for a little bit, introducing ourselves, because, you know, people are going to watch it later and do things.
Well, I hope people will watch it later.
So,
anyway.
I'm Gareth Pye, a level 2 from Melbourne, Australia. I've been judging for 10 years now. And yeah, started judging around the Time Spiral block area. Got my level 2s many years ago in Auckland in New Zealand. And yeah, that's me.
Cool. And I'm Mackenzie, level 2 from Sydney in Australia. Been judging, yeah, roughly 10 years as well. 10 years. I think I got my level 2 in Melbourne. It's probably the GP after you got yours, Gareth.
That sounds about right.
Auckland and then Melbourne. Or did you get yours in Auckland 2008?
Yeah, no, it was 2008. It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
2008, something like that.
Yeah, so there's been 3 Aucklands, one 2008, 2012, and this year.
Yeah, it was the first one. It was at the race course.
The race course, yeah.
So I did my test. I did the test on the actual, in the seating overlooking the race course outside.
Oh, yeah.
Which is sort of an odd place to be doing things, but great scenery.
Yeah. That was my first GP, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Auckland 2008. Yeah.
That was a small
one.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It's funny. Anyway, should we just get started? We've got a viewer now. Woo! Unless that was you.
That could be me.
Oh, damn it.
Because we need that up to be able to see people commenting on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Although we can... Does the viewers go down if I pause that to not eat my bandwidth?
Don't know. Oh, we've still got a viewer. Don't know how that's possible.
It could be somebody else.
If you're actually viewing this, leave us a comment so we know that you're actually a person. That would be great.
Okay, let's go back to the screen sharing.
Yep.
So today we're going to start with going over the keyword actions.
What are keyword actions, Gareth?
I think this next slide might tell us something about keyword actions. Actually, let's go back, sorry. The reason for keyword actions is so that we can have text like on Active Impulse that uses explicit terminology that means things in magic.
Right.
And the keyword actions are all verbs that have specific meanings.
Yeah. So we're talking stuff like draw, right?
And exile, and that would be the example from Active Impulse there.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I think we're now going to go through them alphabetically. So activate, as Humble Defector says, it's using the verb activate to talk about when you're putting that ability on the stack.
Yep.
So in the verb sense, that's typically used as a limitation on abilities.
Yeah. So this is a really great example. Activate only during your turn. There's other ones like activate only when you could cast a sorcery. So I think the best example of that is I don't know. I can't remember. I think I'm thinking of something else where you can like suspend at instant speed for a really weird.
The Phyrexian mana tutor for creatures after you sacrifice them. Activate only as a sorcery.
Yeah, that's a good one. Birthing Pod.
Yeah, Birthing Pod. So we know our card's good.
Yeah. That's a good one. So what other than activate do we have here?
The computer. Activate. Next we have attach. So attach is one that means a lot more than it's usually used for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also, most of the times it's used is like on all equipment, or most equipment, it's actually part of a keyword ability.
Yeah, so that's equip, as we can see here on Hotsuit, right? Yeah, so there's abilities which say equip and abilities which say attach. The one that comes to mind is cranial plating. So yeah, it's put this on another object. So if we're thinking you can attach equipment, obviously, you can attach reinforcements. Is that the one I'm thinking of? That card from Future Sight? Like the attached line? Fortifications. Yeah, fortification.
The bit of attach that people don't typically remember is that it's part of it. All auras resolving.
Yeah.
Because they come into play attached to a creature or whatever they equip, enchant.
Yeah. And then the other one is, for example, replenish. If you replenish auras, they become attached to something. Wonderful little rule which says if an aura would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast as an aura spell, its controller chooses something for it to attach to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll leave it as an exercise for the viewers to figure out when that happens.
Yeah, well, I've already given one example, but there are lots more.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's move it on. What else? What else you got?
Bolster.
Oh, I didn't know bolster was one. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, one of the common triggers to see it in modern sets, and they're getting used a lot more than they used to be, is when you see reminder text after a block of text, there's a whatever the title of this one's called again, ability there. There's an action word there. Yeah. So
keyword actions, right?
Keyword actions. Yeah, that's the word phrase I was going for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that makes sense. I was thinking of something else. Yeah.
This type of ability used to be worded really awkwardly, or just avoided because it was too hard to word.
Yeah, and then it just became a thing which we put reminder text after.
Yeah. And
which makes a lot of sense, really.
I don't think anyone's having trouble understanding things like bolster and having the connection between all the bolster creatures. It just works easily. Yeah.
What's another good one? How about it'll probably come up, but it might not actually be in this presentation. Devour, the new.
I reckon that's probably about 4 or 5 further along.
No, not devour. I'm thinking ingest.
Ingest. No, that would be firstly, these are slightly too old, and it's also that's a keyword ability, not a keyword action.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think we've said enough about bolster in that we've actually said nothing about it.
Yeah. We'll just run through all of them and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cast is pretty common trigger. And it's as this. Yeah, so this is another one that also tends to get used in places as a restriction. So your opponents can't cast spells with a chosen name.
You may cast also, sorcery.
It's also used in and then cast the spell.
Yeah. Flash is a good example. If cards have flash, you may cast it as though it were an instant or something along those lines.
So that would be another place where the verb, the
keyword.
Keyword.
The keyword action is part of another keyword ability. What am I thinking of here? Yeah, so this is very, very similar to activate. It's just activate comes with abilities, cast comes with spells.
Yeah, and later we're going to get to play, right?
Yeah,
which will be the third in that.
Yeah.
So next up we have counter. Everyone's favorite ability.
Woohoo! Yeah. Prevent a spell or ability resolving, or in other words, you just put the spell to the graveyard.
I don't like phrasing it as prevent a spell or ability from resolving, because that implies that it stays on the stack and just doesn't resolve. It's really it's to me the better analogy is it's destroy for spells and abilities. It's put the spell
and it
in the graveyard.
Targets on the stack rather than something in play. Yep. Yeah, that's probably a good way to get your head around it if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, moving on. Destroy.
Which brings us to destroy.
Move something to the graveyard. Now that's a fantastic.
That's perfect description of destroy. And destroy is probably people's more favorite one than countering.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the most used one, wouldn't you say?
Particularly if you remember that destroy is what happens when creatures take lethal damage.
Yeah. So that's
every combat involves it.
Yeah.
Or at least the threat of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, destroy is one of the first things everyone learns in Magic.
Yeah, definitely. Can I kill his guy? He's not allowed to kill my guy.
I've never looked at the art of Hero's Downfall before.
I have a few times.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
It would be a Minotaur, wouldn't it? Because they're hooves.
Oh yeah, that's the hand.
The hand, yeah, in the top foreground, yeah. Yeah,
it looks like it.
And they're definitely a Theros creature type.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And there are black Minotaurs, right?
Sorry, what was that?
There are black Minotaurs in Theros, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Moving on.
Discard.
Well, I think this one's pretty universal. Moving a card from your hand to the graveyard.
Yep.
Used in a lot of other games. Don't really think we need to talk about this one much.
No. It's still another one that is used in other parts of the rules. So you're told to discard down to your maximum hand size at the end of turn and such.
Yep.
So these shortcuts are used on cards and everywhere else.
Yep.
Exchange. This one comes up a lot less often.
Yeah. So a couple of key things about exchange. So you make a swap or a trade in some way, and an exchange can't happen if one of the two objects becomes illegal or moves or ceases to exist or anything before the exchange actually happens. So I know that a lot of questions that I usually receive at pre-releases about cards like shifting loyalties is, I shifting loyalties my guy and his guy, and then he kills my guy. Do I still get to steal his guy? And the answer is no, that's not how that works.
Yeah. Exchange is one of the harder things to cheat in Magic. Although everyone tries because it's really nice if you do.
Yeah, for sure.
And up next, Exile.
Yeah, so, this one's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. Much nicer than the old remove from the game. So if you're reading old cards and it says remove from the game, replace it with Exile.
Yeah.
That was a
pretty straight.
Yeah, it was a pretty straight find and replace on every card and all the comprehensive rules.
Yeah,
and it was a good change.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. The only difference is in cards like the wishes, right?
Yeah.
Living Wish, Glittering Wish, Burning Wish, and Cunning Wish are the ones that see play. And they still instruct you to take a card you own from outside the game. Another Zendikar themed one is Spawn Sire of Ulamog? No. You know the like 10 mana 7/10 where you pay 20 and you can cast as many Eldrazi from outside the game?
Yep. Interestingly, the whole process side of things is a little bit more awkward if we didn't have the exile zone.
Yeah.
Because if it's just removed from the game and the sideboard's in the sort of the same place, you can process your opponent's sideboard.
Yeah.
There's a good reason why the rules have got better, and that's not how anything would work.
Yeah. So yeah, if something instructs you to exile it, just move it to the exile zone and then move it. Like we're just about to do.
Yeah. So next we have fight, which is
fight's another one like exchange where it
no
must
cheating.
happen where both targets are still legal and they're both in the same place. And then, yeah, the 2 points here are pretty descriptive, I think. So the two creatures deal damage to each other equal to their power, and it's not combat damage. So there are a lot of cards which say whenever this creature would deal combat damage or such. That's not combat damage. Combat damage only occurs, funnily enough, during the combat damage step.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be quite annoying trying to remember which creature combat abilities or damage-based abilities care about it being combat damage or not. So, you know, Death Touch and Lifelink work really well. Trample doesn't do so much, or First Strike and Double Strike don't do anything.
Yeah. You mentioned Lifelink just then, right?
Yeah, Lifelink good, Death Touch good, First Strike, Flying, Trample, they're all bad. Or they do nothing in a fight.
Yeah.
Sure. No matter how counterintuitive that sounds.
Yeah. Cool. After fighting, what else we got?
My computer lets me get back to the screen I wanted to be on. We have Manifest. Turn a card face down, it becomes a 2/2.
So let's just be really clear here. Manifest means manifest the top card. It's always manifest is always referred to the top card of your library, I think, right?
It has. There's no actual rules requirement for it to say that.
Yeah, so you could totally have manifest a card from your hand.
Yeah.
However, or most of the cards, I think all of the cards that we currently have with manifest do say from the top card of your library, as you can see here with Mastery of the Unseen.
And furthermore, there's quite a few cards in Fate Reforged that could have said, I think they're in Fate Reforged, or at least in the block that could have said manifest, being when they're coming from the graveyard to play face down, and they didn't. So
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Den Protector could have said, or whatever those ones that go back to the graveyard, get back to play from dying, and that could have said manifest, but they didn't.
Yeah. The kind of lizard raptor thing, right?
Yeah, and the Phoenix, but the Phoenix was Khan's. But yeah, they've only done manifest from the top of library, even though it would have made some sense to use it in other senses, but they didn't like the flavor, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So
yeah, another important thing is that it puts it into play.
Yeah,
it's fine. We can move on. That's cool.
Cool. Monstrosity N.
So
if this creature isn't monstrous, put N +1/+1 counters on it and it becomes monstrous.
Yeah. So something I actually got a couple of questions about is monstrosity a status? I don't think it is.
Monstrous a status.
Monstrous, yeah. I don't think it is. I haven't actually checked this.
It's a property.
Okay. Because we've got like tapped and untapped, phased in, phased out, flipped, unflipped.
Yeah, this is a property, which is different to a status.
Yeah, cool.
Moving. And yeah, I love how this one, you need to be careful about the difference between monstrosity and monstrous. Monstrosity is the ability word, and
monstrous is the status.
Is the status.
Yeah.
Or property, I think is the more correct term there.
Property, yeah. We just had that conversation.
Okay, play.
Yeah. So we were talking about activate and cast before. Play is the third one, which kind of pulls it all together. You can only activated abilities. You can only cast spells, but you can play anything. So you could play a land, or you could play a spell, or you could play an activated ability. It's actually how it used to be worded. But I don't think any of the...
And I don't think play is ever used anywhere that it would refer to an activated ability.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
So yeah, just play lets you play lands at instant speed in some cases.
Yeah.
Well, not at instant speed, during the resolution of...
during the resolution of something.
An ability.
But never on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, correct. Cool. I think we've covered play.
Yeah. Regenerate. If this creature would be destroyed, remove all damage from it, tap it, remove it from combat.
Yeah, so it's just important with this one that the regenerate ability must be activated simply before a creature would be destroyed. And then it creates a replacement effect. Pretty straightforward, I think.
Yeah, the confusion comes in about figuring out if something's talking about something was regenerated. That refers not to the activation of such an ability, but to the replacement of destroyed with that list of action.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to keep in mind with regenerate is that if, for example, I had a 1/1 creature with Death Touch in combat with Ancient Silverback, you would only need to regenerate once, because Death Touch is considered any damage is considered lethal. So we're considering 1 damage lethal. So you'd only need to regenerate once. And the same is true if I had a 5/5 with regenerate. Even though the 5/5 with Death Touch, because even if the damage is lethal, with the normal damage, the Death Touch doesn't add an extra kill. Essentially, it's just 1 would-be death, which you need to regenerate from.
Yeah, it was really good when they fixed that.
Yeah, for sure.
For all us old fogies, we remember when that wasn't true.
Yep.
And essentially nobody knew.
Yeah, the rules have gotten a lot better in the last 10 years, haven't they?
People complain about how horrible Magic is. That's because they love to complain, not because it is actually bad. It's got so much better with time.
Yeah. I mean, I remember complaining when they removed damage on the stack, and now I can't even, really care about it.
Yeah, I remember people complaining about that and going, just live with it, guys. It's good.
Yeah.
Moving on to reveal.
Cool. Again, I think this one's pretty universally obvious. If you have to reveal it, you just show it to people.
To be honest,
what the English word says.
I'm slightly surprised that is actually a thing and not just the English meaning of the word.
Yeah.
Oh well, let's get moving.
Yep, agreed.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
In some ways, you could rephrase this as to cause something to die.
Yeah, but there are two key differences between destroy and sacrifice. The first is that only the controller may sacrifice something, and it can't be regenerated. So, for example, there's a line where I could cast you sacrifice a creature, or you sacrifice target creature, and then somehow you lose control of your creature. You donate it to someone else, and that player cannot sacrifice it. Because the effect that I had said that you had to do it, and you weren't the controller, so you try to sacrifice it, but then it just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And then obviously we were just speaking about regenerate. Regenerate only works on destroy effects, and this isn't a destroy effect; it's a sacrifice.
Oh, let's move on to Scry. Everyone's new favorite evergreen mechanic.
Yep.
Look at the top.
Scry.
Yeah. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put them back on the top or bottom in the order of your choosing.
Yeah. And pretty straightforward. It's one that players will get very used to because it's now built into mulligans. Which I think is amazing.
I'm just waiting for that to change to Scry X instead of Scry 1, where X is the difference in your hand size from 7.
God. So let's just think about Vintage for a second, where the Dredge player already gets to have an extra card to look for his Bazaar.
Nobody cares about Vintage.
Like always 7 cards to look for his Bazaar. Isn't that just absurd?
No one cares about Vintage. It doesn't exist.
I do. I do.
Anyway, that's not what the real rule is, so we'll ignore that.
That would be absurd. I think you'd get down to like a 99% turn 1 Bazaar or something. Just with all of the...
Maybe, but we probably should stick to the real rules, not speculation in this.
Probably.
Sorry.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Search. To look for something.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily matching the description. There is a card, for example, Demonic Tutor, which just says search your deck for a card.
So it's matching the description of a card.
Yeah. However, there is a key distinction. There is a key distinction. Because your library is hidden information, when you sacrifice your polluted delta, even if you have an island or a swamp, you don't actually have to find your island or swamp. You can just say, I've looked and I don't have an island or a swamp, and therefore I can't put anything in play. That is not true for Demonic Tutor, however, because as long as you have cards in your library, it knows that you are able to find a card, so you must find that card. So yeah, just normally speaking, most effects have restrictions or describing which cards you can find, and all of those ones you can choose actually not to find the card. I'm sure I could think of a good example where you'd want to do that. There's a card from Ravnica. It's like find 3 creatures and put them on top in any order. Let's say you only wanted to find 1 creature to draw and then keep drawing your non-creature spells, then you could do that.
Yeah.
However, you couldn't do that.
Your opponent would know that you only got 1 creature, mostly because you have to reveal it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, however, you couldn't do that with a card like... can't remember the card. It's like black XX or black X. Search your library for X cards and put them into your hand.
Yeah. You still have
you would
to.
have to
Well,
find.
you have to find X because we know you have X cards in your deck. Library.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon we should move on to shuffle. Which is, you know, one of those things we all love doing for hours upon hours upon hours. And I think we all understand the pure English definition of that.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into what's a shuffle and what's not a shuffle, but I think that would be another topic entirely. Yeah. So let's not do that.
You know, it's everyone's favorite way to waste time.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Tap.
Turning an object on its side.
Yeah.
And I guess we're gonna go into untap, which will be the reverse.
Yeah.
I think this will be another one that most players will be pretty used to by playing the game.
Yeah.
I don't think we really need to talk about tap, do we?
I'd point out here that in the context of this talk, it's only talking about the word tap here, not the tap symbol.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm not sure that distinction matters. Transform. Turn a double-faced card over.
Yeah. So the more recent examples of these would be the Planeswalkers from Magic Origins, who aren't actually Planeswalkers; they're creatures, and then you meet a trigger condition, and then that instructs you to transform the card or return it to. I think it's exile and then return it to the battlefield transformed. There we go. I just put 2 in 1. And so yeah, so we've basically just got 2 sides of the card. You turn it over to the other side. Simple as that.
Yeah. It's a pity they couldn't use the word flip for this one.
Yeah, well, there are flip cards, so
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Apparently that's all of them. I suspect that's because we're ignoring ones that aren't current.
So there are no more.
There was
So,
no flip.
for example, untap would be one, right?
Yeah.
I guess we can talk a little bit about tapping and untapping. You can't tap a tapped permanent, and you can't untap an untapped permanent. So there's weird abilities which are like tap or untap a permanent, and if it's currently untapped, then your opponent uses that ability on your card, and then you choose to tap your permanent for some reason. The opponent's ability must untap it. That's a cool interaction.
Yes, but most of those say may.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sad. Anyway, so is that it for keyword actions?
That is... is that enough for this evening, or do we want to move on to evergreen keywords?
I mean, I'm happy to keep chatting about stuff. It doesn't really bother me, but I'm not really getting any audience, unfortunately. So it kind of puts a damp on it a little bit for me.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how many people watch it back later and such. Yeah, I'm just looking at the next one, and it's about the same length as this one.
Sure, I'm happy to do it if you want to do it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. We might go a little bit quicker in places.
Yeah, do a little bit less rambling. I'm getting hungry.
And just queuing up the next one for us. And there we are.
Cool.
Okay, so the idea here.
Keyword abilities.
Yeah. Why are you not letting me? There we go. Okay, so Mystical Tutor guys have all decided that splitting these up into one for the evergreen keyword abilities, and then as blocks come out, doing those. So
Okay,
this is the evergreens.
Cool.
I bet they're going to be a little bit out of date. They're not going to be up to date with Origins.
That's fine.
So,
We've already talked a little bit about Scry, so.
Yeah, which isn't a keyword ability.
Yeah.
But there were some other changes to the keyword abilities, so Menace will not be in this list, I imagine.
I think it is. I think I saw it.
Okay, that could be awesome. Things might be up to date.
We'll see.
Cool. So evergreen keyword abilities are keyword abilities that can show up in any set. They're the bread and butter of Magic.
So this is my question. Why is Everlasting Torment here?
Because these are the keyword abilities that will torment us forever.
Okay. Because Wither is not an evergreen.
No.
So I'm just trying to figure it out.
And gaining life and damage prevention are not keyword abilities.
Correct. So let's move on and find out about our first keyword ability, which is Death Touch.
Death Touch. We all love Death Touch.
We already spoke a little bit about Death Touch before. Any amount of damage is lethal, and it affects any type of damage.
Yeah.
Whether that's fighting or whether it's just normal combat damage.
Yeah. So whenever Typhoid Rat deals damage to anything, we consider it to be killing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Bye-bye, Summit Prowl.
Moving on.
Defender. This creature can't attack. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Well, the reminder text on these things is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Defender is just one word, as all of these are one word, and a lot of cards with Defender don't have a lot of other text on them generally. So there's space.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else we got? First Strike.
First Strike.
Ooh.
These ones don't seem to be in alphabetical order, do they?
No. Not at all. All right. So when you have a creature with First Strike that would deal combat damage, it deals damage before all of the other creatures without First Strike. And what this does is that it creates two combat damage steps: a First Strike or a combat damage step where First Strike happens, and a normal damage step. First strike creatures deal damage in First Strike. Everyone else in the normal. If a creature had First Strike but didn't deal any damage, for example, if I had an Ornithopter in First Strike for some reason, and then it gained power in the normal strike damage, it would actually deal damage in normal strike.
Yeah, and likewise, if you had a first striking, your Handweird Lancer is soul bonded with something and attacks, and the paired creature gets blocked by something with first strike and dies during the first strike combat damage step.
Yeah.
Handweird Lancer doesn't deal damage in the normal combat damage step as well.
Correct.
Because he's already dealt damage in the first strike damage step.
Yeah. Another thing you guys should know about first strike is that whenever, for example, if I have just one creature with first strike and no other creatures and I'm attacking, there will always be 2 combat damage steps, even though I don't have any other creatures, which would deal damage in the normal combat damage step.
We'll leave it to the listeners at home to figure out why that would be useful.
Yeah.
And on to double strike, which is why they weren't in alphabetical order, because you should explain first strike first.
Yeah, so double strike, simply first strike plus normal strike damage.
Yeah.
Not much more really to explain on this one.
The explanation with the Lancer, where losing first strike means you have only dealt damage in the first strike damage step, applies equally to double strike. If you lose it, you only have done damage in the first one. So really, double strike reads, give me the extra combat damage step, and I do damage in all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very usefully, it means all those damage triggers happen twice.
Yeah.
And onwards to enchant. So this attaches an aura to another permanent. So that's going back to the previous presentation where we talked about attach.
Yeah.
This is the other half of that.
Yeah, so this is the more common, or what players would think of as a more common word, right? To enchant something, because there are all of these auras running around.
Yeah, and they all the enchant keywords specify what they can be enchanted to. So when that stops being true of the thing they're enchanted to, they fall off and go to the graveyard.
Yeah. Cool.
Equip.
So again, what we spoke about before in terms of attach. However, it's a sorcery speed ability, and then you just chuck it on there. So you pay the cost. That's sorcery speed. Once it resolves, it becomes attached, or what was the definition we had before? To put on another permanent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interestingly, the equip is only to a creature you control, but the attach of an equipment is like enchant creature, but it's always just attach creature.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to.
You can only equip to your own creature, but if the creature is no longer under your control, the equipment will stay equipped to it.
Yeah. And then
but if it stops being a creature, but if it stops being a creature, the equipment falls off and stays in play.
Yeah, because only creatures can pick up shit.
Yeah.
Like, enchantments can't really pick up weapons and attack people. Well, I guess they kind of could, if you think about it.
And we all know that walls don't have hands to hold swords, but magic doesn't care about flavor.
Yeah. So our Guardians of Meletis, though, clearly could hold a sword of the animals.
It'd be sort of small and dainty in there. Giant hand. Anyway, moving on. Flash can be cast whenever you could cast an instant.
It's another one that we had a quick chat about before. Yeah. Just lets us cast our spells at any time. And
to be flavorful, see what I did there? It was very funny, right?
Flash
No, Flash, it moved on quickly.
Oh, all right. I thought you were going to say quickling. It's quick, Flash.
No? Yeah. Anyway, flying can only be blocked by creatures with flying or reach.
Yeah, so if I've got a bird and you're on a horse, tough. Basically. conversely, if I'm a bird and you're a spider, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think this one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Remember that flying doesn't matter with stuff like fight. It only matters really for combat, for attacking and blocking.
Yeah. This one I don't see new players having all that much trouble with commonly.
No.
It's pretty straightforward, intuitive.
Yeah, for sure.
So onwards and upwards. Haste. This one has more trouble for people.
Hey,
unaffected
like
by summoning sickness.
Just for this creature.
So this does mean you can attack with it the turn you play it. It does mean you can use it for tap abilities. Use its tap abilities.
Yep.
Yeah. Relatively straightforward.
Yeah, it just means that this guy's a little bit more bloodthirsty than your other guys. Wants to get in there and do his stuff.
Yeah.
That's basically it, really.
I think the actual flavor for most of them is meant to be that the process of being summoned through the blind eternities doesn't disorientate them, so they can immediately start acting.
Yeah.
Whether that's because they're adept at doing that or because they're just a dumb beast who likes to eat things varies.
Yeah, for sure.
And likewise with Flash, we should move on quickly.
Yeah.
Hexproof. Can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control.
Yeah,
this
one's
nice.
This one's a classic troll aesthetic ability. But yeah, it's basically like these guys just have a shield in front of them. It's kind of like a one-way shield.
Yeah.
So your stuff can get through, your opponent's stuff can't.
It's like personal force fields in most science fiction.
Yeah.
They seem to magically know what's meant to get through and what's not.
Yeah.
Right up until the point where there's a plot point that lets something wrong through.
Yeah. So people may know of this ability through the Boggles deck in Modern. Plays 8 creatures with hexproof and puts a lot of auras on those creatures because the opponent can't interact with your creatures. It's really safe to put the auras on them, and then you can beat down for lots of damage.
Yeah. So onwards, we have Indestructible. Can't be destroyed by lethal damage or effects that say destroy, which is the redundant way of saying by destroy effects. Because lethal damage is destroy, as all us rules lawyers like to remind everyone.
However, there's a different state-based action involving when a creature has 0 or less toughness. And in this case, if there's a Fleeceman Lion and you cast Languish, the Fleeceman Lion is just put into its owner's graveyard because it doesn't have any toughness at all. Something to keep in mind, though, is that if Languish gave -3/-3, and then you dealt 1 damage, then it would still come under the destroy because it has at least 1 toughness, and it would not be destroyed.
And this is why at the pre-release on the weekend when I was playing, I corrected at least 3 of my 4 opponents that a creature taking damage does not reduce its toughness. Yeah,
for sure.
So it's something that people, and it's important as a judge to politely remind players that how things technically work, particularly in these areas where the incorrect understanding does have common interactions in most games.
Yeah, definitely.
When the interaction only matters when they're using phasing or bands with others, don't bother correcting them.
Yeah.
And always do it with a smile and be friendly and keep a good relationship with the players you're around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're there to make sure that they have the best possible tournament experience, fun, and education. Yeah. That's what we're about. We're not about making people feel bad.
So onwards, we have lifelink. Damage dealt by this source also causes its controller to gain that much life. And as we mentioned when we were talking about fight, this affects combat and non-combat damage. So it's good in a fight, it's good on creatures that deal direct damage through other means. It's just all around good.
100%. And in the case of Soulfire Grandmaster, it gives your instant and sorcery spells lifelink as well. So if you cast a lightning bolt with Soulfire in play, then you get to deal 3 damage and gain 3 life as well.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. I once Soulfire Grandmaster Time Walk locked someone in Vintage Cube. That was great.
Yeah.
Good times.
Onwards. We have Menace. Yep, so this is fully up to date, as we've seen with all the Origins cards being used.
Yep.
Can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures.
Pretty straightforward, this one, I think.
Yep.
Not really much more we can talk about.
It might be a good time to mention can't beats must.
Yeah,
so if the opponent has a creature that must block, or this creature has lure put on it, so all creatures must block it if able, and your opponent only has 1 creature.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, this isn't where can't beats must.
Yeah. So if it has, you know, the 6 mana +3/+3 must be blocked if able.
Yep.
I just use that example because it's both from Origins. If you attack with this and they only have 1 creature, it can't be blocked. Therefore, the creature tries and blocks, but then it can't. So the creature can't block, even though the line of text says still must be blocked.
Yeah, I'm going to trust you on that one because I'm confused at the moment.
And so if you take another example, if you have lots of creatures, and your opponent also has lots of creatures, they can still choose not to block by putting all of their creatures on all of the other creatures that you have, because it's still satisfying all of the conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And moving on, we have Prowess, one of our new additions to Evergreen.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's a very recent ability to go Evergreen as well.
Yeah. Prowess, the creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn whenever you cast a non-creature spell. Important note thereof, spell does not have to resolve.
Yeah, so remember in the previous presentation we were talking about casting as being putting it on the stack. So we're not talking about resolving, we're talking about just putting it on the stack. So that's when the creature would get +1/+1.
Yeah. The other very useful thing to note here, when you copy a spell that's already on the stack, you don't cast the spell again. So Storm, when you've cast the 8 spells to get your Storm count up to 8, the Swift Spear will get +8. But then when you cast your Grape Shot, the Swift Spear only gets 1 more +1/+1. Correct. Not 9.
However, there are some cards which say cast the copy. If you, for example, something like Fork. I don't think
Fork does not say that anymore. No, you're thinking more of Isochron Scepter, where you have something that's not on the stack and you copy it and then you cast it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
So onwards, we have Reach. Can block as though it has flying.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about with flying. Reach appears on a lot of spiders. Spiders are better than birds. Well, they're not better, but birds are in trouble if your opponent has spider. Similarly, they're in trouble if you've got a really, really big guy.
Yeah.
As demonstrated with Arbor Colossus.
Let alone people with bows also tend to have reach. And Arbor Colossus has both. He's huge.
Oh, yeah. I never noticed the bow, actually.
Neither have I until seeing it on here, and that's a bow.
Yeah. However, guys, just keep in mind that the picture does not actually indicate what abilities something may have.
No.
We are being a little bit indicative and flavorful because we think it might help you understand the abilities a little bit more. But by no means, if something looks like it has wings, therefore it has flying. No, that's not how that works.
No, but if you see in the art it has wings, check the text box again. It might have flying.
Yeah.
They're good indicators. They help you. Don't rely on them.
Absolutely.
As we say, the first 6 rules of Magic are read the card.
All 6 of them?
Yeah, at least 6.
Yeah, for sure. What else?
Then we have Trample. Can assign excess combat damage to defending player after blocks. I don't like that phrasing there.
So during damage.
Yeah, during damage, you're about to assign damage to our poor creature here, and you work out how much damage it takes to kill the creature, lethal damage, and then you assign the rest over the top.
So how does that work with Death Touch, Gareth?
Well, how much damage is lethal? 1. So we assign 1 to the blocker, or 1 to each of the many blockers, and then the rest goes over the top.
Yeah. Something important is this is a may. So you actually get to choose to assign all of the damage to the creature if you like. So that there is a case, for example, if your opponent has a card which is like, if you're on 1 life, you win the game in your upkeep. And if by trampling over you would put your opponent to 1 life, you can go, actually, no, I'm just going to deal all the damage to the creature. You can stay on 2, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, or if they're on 5 and you're going to trample over for 4, you could go, oh, no, I'm going to trample 3 over and put you on 2.
Yeah.
Like you can choose anywhere in the middle.
Yeah. Another thing about trample is that if I have a creature with trample attacking and you block it, and then for some reason your blocker goes away, all of my trample damage goes over. There's no choice. Yeah.
Also, trample doesn't take into account replacement abilities, indestructibility.
Yeah. Protection.
Lots of things like that.
Yeah, so, you deal as much as would be lethal.
Yeah. Protection doesn't tend to come up because it's rather hard to get a creature with protection blocked by something that...
No.
No, sorry, protection the other way around. Yeah, ignore me. I'm silly. Yeah.
I know True Name Nemesis blocks Tarmogoyf a lot, so
yeah.
if you give Tarmogoyf trample, then...
Yeah. You just need to assign 1 to poor True Name Nemesis, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Where it gets... So if we had a True Name Nemesis and the opponent had a Tarmogoyf that was a 4/5 with double strike and trample, how much damage goes over the top?
How big's my Tarmogoyf?
4/5.
4/5? Double strike.
Just trample? Like our Siege Rhino here.
Cool. So we have a Siege Rhino that's been given double strike. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. So I would have to assign at least 1 damage to the True Name Nemesis. I may assign up to 4 damage in first strike. And then the rest is assigned to my opponent. So I can deal 3 damage in first strike, and then I would have to do exactly the same thing in normal combat damage.
Yep. Because when you go to do the normal, you look how much damage has it taken? None, because it's got protection.
Yeah.
And you have to assign the 1 again.
Correct.
It's on the counterintuitive side for most people there.
Because they're like, oh, 1 damage has already been dealt. Therefore, no. The damage actually never gets dealt.
Only been assigned.
Correct.
Cool. So let's move on to vigilance. Attacking does not cause it to tap.
I think this one's pretty straightforward, really. You know, normally you would have to tap to attack. However, this ability says that you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is one where, as a judge watching a F&M game, don't really jump in there and untap their creature the second they attack with it.
Yeah.
A lot of players do find it easier to leave the creature tapped for a little while.
Yeah.
But if you don't untap it at the end of combat, reach in there and just untap it.
Yeah.
Because it's really important that they know they can block with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen players that like tap with their vigilance creatures just to show that they're attacking.
Yeah.
And then I've said to their opponent, like, do you know that these creatures are untapped? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. This is the way we've been playing all game. So it's just, as long as both players are aware of the current game state and they're happy, like, we don't really have to do anything.
Yeah. But I really want them to untap them at the end of combat.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or even once blockers are declared, for example.
Yeah, particularly if there's if that creature is blocked, so there's a creature physically on top of it blocking it, then it's pretty obvious it's attacking.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Great, what else we got? Is this the end?
That is the end.
Cool. Well, I hope our one viewer on and off has enjoyed us.
Well,
unless that was you.
Did you see the number get above 1? Because
no.
Yeah, I think that's me.
Oh, Gareth. Oh well. Hopefully, some people will come back and watch somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. We'll leave it there though, but it has been fun.
Yeah, for sure. I think we sorted out a lot of the technical issues we were having last week, which is good.
Yeah, and it's all gone pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy. You happy?
Yeah.
Well, righto. Well, we'll just sign off, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Do we have to like think of some cool sign off, like the